video is going to be a little bit different. It's because the Super Bowl is coming up, so I wanted to do a longer form video about how to price your property for the Super Bowl or another big event that could happen in the US or somewhere else. At the end, I'll talk about the top 10 biggest events in the US so that you can pay attention if you're close to them. But then obviously you're going to know too if there's a big conference or a big concert or something else coming in. You need to price it appropriately, and then there's certain ways to advertise your property if a big event is coming in. This may seem like more of a short-term topic, and it kind of is. However, I feel like you could take your midterm rental and make someone sign a 30-day lease if there's an event like a Super Bowl coming in where you will lose a ton of money if someone isn't renting it for that particular weekend. So they'd be renting it for the weekend, but signing a lease for 30 days. May or may not be comfortable with this since the intention is the weekend, and then you're allowing them to do a 30-day lease, and then likely we'll have rentals around it. If you're uncomfortable with it, you could just make them do the 30-day lease and then not rent out to anyone else, or you could fudge it a little bit and see if you get away with it. My thought is that if you have an HOA, they might be on top of it and you might want to be concerned about that. But I also know people worry sometimes that when they do these 30-day leases, people will come in and squat. I think with the Super Bowl, this is a really low risk. And the reason why I think this is low risk is because if you have the money to go to the Super Bowl, you're probably quite well off, and you probably have a family and a home and a job somewhere else that you need to pay for. If you are looking for a medium-term rental, there's one on Amazon, American Nomads, Erin Spradlin. Also, I'm gonna have a new book released at the end of January, I think, and it is just gonna be a guide to midterm rentals. So it will be a little bit, this is more checklists and interviews and the different people that would wanna rent it. And then the new book is kind of more directly how to set up your property, things like that. Okay, so let's talk about the Super Bowl and other big events. The reason why I want to talk about this is because someone actually did come in on a consulting call where they were asking how I thought that they should advertise their place and what they should do, which then led me to do a bunch of research. And so I was just looking at what people were offering and just seeing some things that I thought were necessary and unnecessary. Her property was pretty large. It was like a townhome, but it was large, which I thought was a good setup for a Super Bowl event. And then I saw people doing things that I didn't think they should do. So let's talk about what you should do if you're advertising for a big event, and then we'll talk about what you shouldn't do if you're advertising for a big event. So if you were advertising for a big event and you specifically want people to come in for that event, whether you're on Airbnb, VRBO, or Furnish Finder, I would update your headline temporarily to reflect that event. The other thing I think you should do is in the headline, you should specifically say, this is a 6-minute drive to, I don't know, it was some insurance stadium. This is a 6-minute drive to blank insurance stadium, or this is a 5-minute Uber ride to whatever. I think that that is really what people are going to care about. And then the other thing I think they're going to care about is how many people it sleeps, because I think it's usually a big party event. You're going to come in, and you're going to be hanging out with your friends, and then you're going to go over there. So I think you really want to emphasize the party side of your property. So how many people does it sleep? How far is it from the venue? If you have a pool, hot tub, ping pong, or pool table on site, I think all of those things are worth mentioning. You also maybe could take a picture of the barbecue or yard space if it's really attractive, because those are the types of things that I think specifically with Arizona right now are going to appeal to people and what they're going to be looking for. And so I think emphasizing how close it is to the stadium, how easy it will be to get there, and then also talking about how many heads and beds, that will be a bigger advantage to you than some other things. And some things you don't need to do, it's not particularly important if you allow for animals, so don't care about that. The other thing I was seeing that a lot of the rentals were doing is that they were offering like cutesy like cookie packages and, 6-packs or breweries and stuff. I don't think that stuff matters at all. And the reason why I think it doesn't matter is that you have someone coming in for a one-time event. And so they're coming, first off, a lot of times people do not repeat Airbnbs because they want to have the experience of trying other Airbnbs. So some people do have repeat business. I have some clients that have repeat business, but for the most part, I think even when you're really happy with an Airbnb, typically it's kind of like searching for a flight. You are looking for the price and whatever is closest to where you're at, and then there's certain probably aesthetic criteria that you have, but most people don't have a super loyalty to the place they've stayed at. I live in Colorado Springs now, and I go to Denver all the time for business and for other reasons, and I spend the night at Airbnbs up in Denver all the time, and I never go back to the same one. I just go back to basically different neighborhoods that I know that I like, that are close to whatever I need to do, and that kind of meet my pricing guidelines. And so the reason why I mentioned that is because I don't think that there's necessarily a ton of loyalty for a repeat stay. And when you think about offering cookies or something kitschy around the Super Bowl, why are you doing that? It's one thing if you want to do it because you think it'll be fun or sweet and you're like kind of wanting to participate. But as far as thinking about them coming back to stay with you, caring about it, paying more, they won't. So if it's something that you want to do just because you think it'll be fun, then go for it. But don't do it as a business move, because it's not something that I think there's a lot of return on investment for. Not looking to repeat the experience. They're only in Phoenix because of the Super Bowl, and they only need a property that big because they have friends coming in for the Super Bowl. One other thing, specifically about how to price for the Super Bowl, good thing I'm not forgetting that, but how I helped this client look at pricing is that you can look at what your competition is pricing, but if you're looking at what your competition is pricing for that and they're still available, then you have a bit of an issue because they're available and no one has booked it yet, which might mean that they're too high. And there have certainly been articles and studies about people pricing their properties too high for these events, just thinking that they can name any price, and really they can't. You know, there is more and more competition because of Airbnb, and also even though these people have a ton of money, they're also savvy consumers and they know what you're doing. They don't actually want to get ripped off. So you have to be smart about your pricing strategy. And so what we did to help her price was that we looked at different properties and what they were doing, but then more importantly, we looked at the hotels that were closest to her property. And so she had a property that could sleep 8. We really thought it was more realistic that probably 6 people would come in. So we looked at the price of hotel rooms that could sleep 2, and then we times that by 3, and then made that price for her nightly rate. And then if they wanted to bring in more people, they had to pay more for it. And then we advertised in the headline, it's a 6-minute drive. And we talked about the fact that there's a barbecue on site, there's a nice open kitchen, sleeps this many people. I think that's interesting because these big events come in and you want to exploit them, you want to make the money off of them, but you're not quite sure how. And so I thought this was a cool exercise for myself and for her to figure out how to do it. Okay, so then I pulled this article. It is from InfoAmericaUSA.com, a website you've never heard of. But they talk about the top 10 most popular sporting events. So I'm just going to run down them because it will give you ideas. And it's not just sporting events, but the most popular events. And it will give you an idea of what you should be advertising for or how to think about some of these big opportunities that come through. So the first one obviously is the Super Bowl. The second one is the New York Marathon. The third is the Ironman, that's in Hawaii. The fourth is the NBA Finals. The fifth is the Daytona 500. The sixth is the Masters golf tournament. Seventh is the Major League Baseball World Series. The eighth is the US Open. The ninth is the Stanley Cup Finals. The 10th is the US Open of Surfing. The 11th, so I guess there's more than 10. The 11th is the Boston Marathon. The 12th is the Kentucky Derby. The 13th is the Indy 500. So just some thoughts about different things that you can price and how to prepare for it, how to set your listing, and how to get ready for them. Anyways, I hope that helped. I'm sure I will be around with more videos soon. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.